Hello and welcome to Fáilteoireamh to Matt and Michael's lockdown, number 52. So that must mean it's our anniversary. We've been doing these weekly videos for more or less a year now. And when we started, we thought they'd be just something casual we'll do for a few weeks, but we've kept doing them for a whole year. It also means this is the anniversary of the arrival of COVID in Ireland and in County Meath. But better times are on the way. Daffodils, vaccine, spring, summer, better weather. So we invite you to sit back and relax for the next 20 minutes or so and enjoy our selection of poems, songs and music. We'll start with a poem. I'm going to read a long poem this week, a really long poem. In fact, I'd call it more a recitation than a poem. And it's a very famous one by Robert Service. Robert Service was born in Preston in England in 1874. He was a bank clerk and he went to Canada, and his bank sent him to the Yukon Territory, and there he was inspired by stories of the Klondike Gold Rush. And he wrote a couple of poems on the topic, and they were so popular that it encouraged him to write more. And he published poetry collections which sold lots and made him lots of money. He served in the First World War as an ambulance driver in France. And after the war, he got married and he went to live in the south of France. And he lived there until he died in 1958. This is one of his most famous poems, The Cremation of Sam McGee. I was interested to find out that there is actually a lake called Lake Labarge. Well, it's almost the same name. And there is a place called Plumtree, but it's not in Tennessee, it's in North Carolina. But then North Carolina doesn't rhyme with Plumtree. So poets have to change geographical facts now and then to suit the rhyme. So sit back and relax, make yourself cozy and keep warm because it's cold. The Cremation of Sam McGee. There are strange things done in the midnight sun by the men who moil for gold. The Arctic trails have their secret tales that would make your blood run cold. The Northern Lights have seen queer sights, but the queerest they ever did see was that night on the marge of Lake Labarge I cremated Sam McGee. Now Sam McGee was from Tennessee, where the cotton blooms and blows. Why he left his home in the south to roam round the pole, God only knows. He was always cold, but the land of gold seemed to hold him like a spell, though he'd often say in his homely way that he'd rather live in hell. On a Christmas day, we were mushing our way over the Dawson Trail. Talk of your cold, through the parka's fold, it stabbed like a driven nail. If our eyes we closed and our lashes froze, till sometimes we couldn't see. It wasn't much fun, but the only one to whimper was Sam McGee. And that very night, as we lay packed tight in our robes beneath the snow, and the dogs were fed and the stars o'erhead were dancing heel and toe, he turned to me and, "Captain," says he, "I'll cash in this trip, I guess, and if I do, I'm asking that you won't refuse my last request." Well, he seemed so low that I couldn't say no. Then he said with a sort of moan, "It's the cursed cold, it's got right hold, till I'm chilled clean through to the bone. Yet it's not being dead, it's the awful dread of the icy grave that pains. So I want you to swear that foul or fair, you'll cremate my last remains. A pal's last need is a thing to heed, so I swore I would not fail. And we started on the streak of dawn, but God, he looked ghastly pale. He crouched on the sleigh, and he raved all day of his home in Tennessee. And before nightfall, a corpse was all that was left of Sam McGee. There wasn't a breath in that land of death, and I hurried, horror-driven, with a corpse half hid that I couldn't get rid because of a promise given. It was lashed to the sleigh, and it seemed to say, you may tax your brawn and brains, but you promise true, and it's up to you to cremate these last remains. Now a promise made is a debt unpaid, and the trail has its own stern code. In the days to come, though my lips were dumb, in my heart how I cursed that load. In the long, long night, by the lone firelight, while the huskies round in a ring howled out their woes to the homeless snows. Oh God, how I loathed that thing. And every day that quiet clay seemed to heavy and heavier grow, and on I went, though the dogs were spent and the grub was getting low. The trail was bad, and I felt half mad, but I swore I would not give in, and I'd often sing to the hateful thing, and it hearkened with a grin. Till I came to the marge of Lake Labarge, and a derelict there lay. It was jammed in the ice, but I saw in a trice it was called the Alice May. And I looked at it, and I thought a bit, and I looked at my frozen chum. Then here, says I, with a sudden cry, is my crematorium. Some planks I tore from the cabin floor, and I lit the boiler fire. Some coal I found that was lying around, and I heaped the fuel higher. The flames just soared, and the furnace roared, such a blaze you seldom see. And I burrowed a hole in the glowing coal, and I stuffed in Sam McGee. Then I made a hike, for I didn't like to hear him sizzle so. And the heavens scowled, and the huskies howled, and the wind began to blow. It was icy cold, but the hot sweat rolled down my cheeks, and I don't know why. And the greasy smoke in an inky cloak went streaking down the sky. I do not know how long in the snow I wrestled with grisly fear. But the stars came out, and they danced about ere again I ventured near. I was sick with dread, but I bravely said, I'll just take a peep inside. I guess he's cooped, and it's time I looked. Then the door I opened wide. And there sat Sam, looking cool and calm, in the heart of the furnace roar. And he wore a smile you could see a mile, and he said, please close the door. It's fine in here, but I greatly fear you let in the cold and storm. Since I left Plumtree down in Tennessee, it's the first time I've been warm. Matt is in good form today because of the anniversary, and he's going to start with a very lively, funny song. And he hopes all of you are going to join in. And to help, we've given you the words. I won't tell you what the name of the song is because I can't really remember it or pronounce it, but it's all there for you on the screen. So off you go, Matt.
There's a tiny house, by a tiny stream, where a lovely lass had a lovely dream, and her dream came true quite unexpectedly in Gilly, Oss and Pepper, Cats and Ellen, Bowman by the sea. She was out one day where the tulips grow, when a handsome lad stopped to say hello. And before she knew, he kissed her tenderly in Gilly Gilly, Austin, Pepper, Cats and Ellen Bowen by the sea. The happy pair were married one Sunday afternoon. They left the church and ran away to spend their honeymoon in a tiny house, by a tiny stream, where the lovely lass had a lovely dream. And the last I heard, they still live happily in Gilly Gilly, Austin, Pepper, Cats and Ellen Bowen by the sea. There's a tiny house by a tiny stream, where a lovely lass had a lovely dream. And the dream came true quite unexpectedly in Gilly Gilly, Austin, Pepper, Cats and Ellen Bowen by the sea. She was out one day where the tulips grow, when a handsome lad stopped to say hello. And before she knew, he kissed her tenderly in Gilly Gilly, Austin, Pepper, Cats and Ellen Bowen by the sea. So now you've heard the story of how it all begun. I think I'd like to go there, that's a good idea. Be very soft, pianissimo, like a little bird, walking in the snow. That was very nice. Now sing it merrily. It's Gilly Gilly, Austin, Pepper, Cats and Ellen Bowen by the sea. Austin, Pepper, Cats and Ellen Bowen by the sea. Now, I hope you all enjoyed that little break.
Thank you, Matt. And now, to make up for reading that very long poem earlier, I'm going to read a very short poem. This is by William Allingham. Remember, I read The Fairies by William Allingham, up the airy mountain, down the rushy glen, a few weeks ago. When he died in 1889, he was cremated and his ashes were brought home and buried in his native Ballyshannon. And there's an Allingham Park in Ballyshannon, and it has stones with some of his verses inscribed there, including this one. 4 Ducks on a Pond by William Allingham. 4 ducks on a pond, a grass bank beyond, a blue sky of spring, white clouds on the wing. What a little thing, to remember for years, to remember with tears. And now we're delighted again to be joined by Francis Duffy from Navan, who's going to play the waltz from The Merry Widow by Franz Lehar.
This is from The Merry Widow.
Thank you, Francis. This poem of mine was written in response to a picture we have of my mother and father in Sligo. It was obviously taken by a street photographer. We're not sure what the occasion was, but it may have been around their engagement or even their marriage. In the photograph, my mother is staring straight at the camera and smiling while my father is looking away. So I wrote this poem in the voice of my father. Mother and father. I can't remember the occasion, perhaps engagement or wedding planning, when we two country lovers at a Sligo corner were caught in a camera's lens. Was it 40 or 41? A war year certainly. Though the fronts were distant, we suffered ration books and scarce cigarettes and cheerless, carless streets. Typically, I shun the searchlight, a non-combatant, intent on home, civilian coat vulnerably ajar, felt hat carelessly aligned. Smiling, she eyes the front, unflinching, hair secured, solidly belted and booted, armoured against the future. I have forgotten 1,000 questions that arise from your gaze. What colour is the blouse, the tie, the bars of the pullover? You will never know, and especially you will never know what I carry in the twine-tied paper parcel in my right hand next the wall. And finally this week, sorry, what's that, Matt? There's a message for us. From who? Oh, there's a message from Vladimir.
Hello, I am violinist Vladimir Yabloko. I am here with my good friend Kevin Walsh on the piano, and we would like to play a tune for my longtime friend Matthew Gilson and Michael Farry. They are celebrating 1 year of M&M series. They're bringing happiness and joy to all the nursing homes and care homes across Ireland. Well done, guys, and happy anniversary.
Thank you very much, Vladimir, for that lovely message on our anniversary. We really appreciate it. And congratulations too on how you have adapted to the present situation with lockdown and so on, and being unable to do live concerts. Well done. And finally, we have Matt singing from one of his concerts in Arizona in the early 80s with the Scottsdale Symphony Orchestra. And he's going to go on a tour of the 4 provinces of Ireland, starting in Ulster with the Mountains of Mourne. And while he's singing, we look at Trim over the last year of lockdown. So we hope you enjoyed this week, and we look forward to bringing you another lockdown next week. So in the meantime, take care. God bless.
Oh, Mary, this London's a wonderful sight, with the people here working by day and by night. They don't sow potatoes nor barley nor wheat, but there's gangs of them digging for gold in the street. At least when I asked them, that's what I was told. So I just took a hand at this digging for gold. But for all that I found there, I might as well be where the mountains of Mourne sweep down to the sea. Leaving the mountains of Mourne, we travelled south, through the mountains again, and into Dublin in Leinster. In Dublin's fair city, where the girls are so pretty, I first set my eyes on sweet Molly Malone, as she wheeled her wheelbarrow through streets broad and narrow, crying cockles and mussels, alive, alive, oh, alive, alive, oh, alive, alive, oh, crying cockles and mussels, alive, alive, oh. Leaving Dublin now, we can head south through the Garden of Ireland, which is Wicklow, or through Tipperary, into Cork, which stands on the bank of the River Lee. How oft do my thoughts in their fancy take flight to the home of my childhood away, to the days when his patriot's vision seemed bright, ere I dreamed that those joys could be paid. When my heart was as light as the wild winds that blow down the Mardyke through each errant tree, where we sported and played 'neath each green leafy shade, on the banks of my own lovely Lee, where we sported and played 'neath each green leafy shade, on the banks of my own lovely Lee. And now we go from the rebel county Cork up through Clare and into the west of Ireland and to Galway. If you ever go across the sea to Ireland, be it only at the closing of your day, you will sit and watch the moon rise over Clara and see the sun go down on Galway Bay, just to hear again the ripple of the trout stream
sit beside the tar fire in a cabin and watch the barefoot hussars at their play. Oh, the breeze is blowing o'er the sea from Ireland, are perfumed by the heather as they blow, and the women in the uplands digging praties speak a language that the strangers do not know. And if there's going to be a life hereafter, and somehow